One organization runs hospitals, schools, and its own television network. It has held ministries in a national government, and at its peak, it held an estimated 150,000 rockets. That is more firepower than most countries' armies. The United States calls it a terrorist organization. Millions across the Middle East call it the resistance. Both descriptions refer to the same organization, Hezbollah. I'm going to show you what it actually is. No spin, no caricature. Only what the evidence supports. Because the ending of the story, unfolding right now in 2026, is unlike anything in its 40-year history. Let's start with the name. Hezbollah is Arabic. Hizb Allah, literally the party of God. And it isn't a slogan. It comes directly from the Quran. Chapter number 5, verse 56 refers to Hezbollah, the party of God, and says they will be victorious. So the name itself is a theological claim. Hezbollah is a Shia Islamist organization, and its founding documents pledged loyalty to Iran's supreme leader under a doctrine called Wilayat al-Faqih, guardianship of the tourist. That single fact, the ideological line running from Beirut to Tehran, explains almost everything that follows. But to understand why this organization exists at all, you have to go back to 1 year, 1982. In 1982, Lebanon was 7 years into a brutal civil war. That June, Israel invaded, pushing all the way to Beirut to expel the Palestine Liberation Organization, that is PLO. Iran, 3 years after its Islamic Revolution, saw an opening. It sent roughly 1,500 revolutionary guards to Lebanon's Bekaa Valley. Their mission? Train and organize young Shia fighters into a new force. That force operated in the shadows for 3 years. Then, in 1985, it published an open letter announcing its existence. The letter named its goals: expel Western powers from Lebanon, fight Israel, and follow the leadership of Iran's revolution. Here's why the timing mattered. Lebanon's Shia community was one of the country's largest and historically its most marginalized, politically underrepresented, and economically neglected. Hezbollah offered weapons, welfare, and dignity, all at once. And in the year 2000, it got its defining moment. Israel withdrew from southern Lebanon after 18 years of occupation. Hezbollah claimed that victory as its own, and across the Arab world, many agreed. That reputation is the foundation everything else was built on. Now, the part most people never hear. Hezbollah is not only an armed group. Since 1992, it has contested Lebanese elections and won seats in parliament. It has held ministerial posts in Lebanese cabinets, and it runs what researchers call a parallel state. Hospitals and clinics, schools, a construction agency called Jihad al-Binna that rebuilds war-damaged homes, a microfinance network, and Al-Manar, its own satellite television channel. In parts of southern Lebanon and Beirut's southern suburbs, these services have often been more reliable than what the Lebanese provides, especially after the Lebanon's economy collapsed in 2019. This is the engine of its popular support. For many Lebanese Shia, Hezbollah is not an abstraction. It is the school their children attend and the clinic their parents visit. But this is exactly where the story splits into two irreconcilable versions. Supporters see a movement that protects and provides. Critics see an armed faction that answers to Tehran, not Beirut. One that keeps a private army, no elected government controls. Which brings us to the most contested question of all. Is Hezbollah a terrorist organization? The honest answer, it depends entirely on where you are standing. The United States designated it in 1997. The United Kingdom banned the entire organization in 2019. Germany followed in 2020. The Gulf Cooperation Council and the Arab League designated it in 2016. But here's the detail most videos get wrong. The European Union lists only Hezbollah's military wing. The political wing remains legal across most of the Europe. And in June 2024, the Arab League quietly stopped using the terrorist label altogether, reopening contact with the group, and Russia and China have never designated it at all. So the same organization is simultaneously banned, partially banned, and officially engaged with, depending on the capital. No other armed group on earth sits in that many categories at once. Then came the wars. In 2006, Hezbollah fighters crossed into Israel, killed and captured Israeli soldiers, and triggered a 34-day war that devastated Lebanon, more than 1,000 Lebanese killed, but ended without Hezbollah's defeat. Inside Lebanon, its image as a defender took its first major hit in 2008, when it turned its weapons inward and briefly seized parts of the West Beirut during a political crisis. The second hit came after 2012, when it sent thousands of fighters into Syria to save Bashar al-Assad's government, a decision that alienated much of the Sunni Arab world. Through it all, the arsenal kept growing. By 2023, estimates put its stockpile at up to 150,000 rockets and missiles. And then it made the decision that changed everything. On the 8th of October 2023, one day after the Hamas attack on Israel, Hezbollah began firing across the border in support of Gaza. For 11 months, the exchange stayed limited. Then in September 2024, everything broke. Thousands of Hezbollah pagers and radios exploded simultaneously across Lebanon in an operation attributed to Israel. Days later, Israeli airstrikes killed Hassan Nasrallah, the man who had led Hezbollah for 32 years. Much of the senior command died with him. His deputy, Naim Qasim, inherited a shattered organization. A ceasefire came in November 2024, and with it, something unprecedented. Lebanon's new government committed to disarming Hezbollah and put the Lebanese army in charge of the plan. By January 2026, the army said Phase 1, the area south of the Litani River, was complete. Then in March 2026, full-scale war returned, alongside a wider war involving Iran itself. And on the 26th of June 2026, just days ago, Lebanon, Israel, and the United States signed a framework agreement in Washington that ties Israeli withdrawal to something once unthinkable: Hezbollah's complete disarmament. Hezbollah was not at the table. It has rejected the deal outright, calling it a surrender. Its weapons, the thing that defined it for 40 years, and now the single question deciding Lebanon's future. So what is Hezbollah? It is a political party, a welfare network, an ideology, and an army, all fused into one organization that is now weaker than it has been since the 1980s, yet still strong enough that an entire peace process depends on what it does next. Can a state disarm a movement that a whole community sees as its shield? That question has no precedent and no easy answer.